Good morning, everyone. Let us see the control statements in C programming. A statement is a syntactic construction which performs an action when a program is executed. All C programming statements are terminated with a semicolon, and these statements are of declaration statement, expression, compound statement, labeled statement, or a control statements, in which these control statements are further classified as a selection statement, iteration statement, and jump statement. Iteration statement is a program statement which serves to communicate to the language translator the information about the name and type of the data objects which are needed during the program execution. So suppose you have a function, so then function prototype or function declaration will tell the compiler, which is a translator, which indicates to the compiler or a translator that what is the name of the function, what are the argument types, and what are the return types. Next kind of statement is an expression statement, which is terminated by a semicolon. Again, here an expression is a sequence of operators and operands which specifies the computation of a value. Suppose you have x equal to 4, x equal to y plus z minus 2. So these are all expression statements. Then the compound statement is a sequence of statements which may be treated as a single statement in the construction of larger statement. And these compound statements are obtained by concatenating the and or operators between the simple expression statements. Example, x not equal to 5 and y equal to 6. Next kind is a labeled statements, and these labeled statements can be used to mark any statement so that the control may be transferred to the statement by switch statement or go to statement. Likewise, example, suppose the statement x equals to 4 is preceded by the label next, then it will be looking like next colon x equal to 4, and somewhere in later or before you will be having go to next. Next is a control statement, which is a statement whose execution results in a choice being made as to which of the two or more paths should be followed. In other words, the control statements determine the flow of control in a program. As I told, these control statements could be a selection statement, an iterative statement, or a jump statement. So we'll see one by one. So these selection statements allow a program to select a particular execution path from a set of one or more alternatives. Various forms of if-else statement belongs to this category along with the switch statement. Then the iteration statements, they are used to execute a group of one or more statements repeatedly. In C, we have while, for, and do while statements which belongs to this category. Then the jump statements cause an unconditional jump to some other place in the program. Example, here go to statement is a jump statement in C programming. So these programming statements can be represented by using a flowchart in this fashion. So here this first one represents a sequence structure where statements will be executed in sequential form. So suppose you are starting performing some action 1, then followed by action 2, followed by action 2, or again some other actions. So this forms the sequence. One after the other, the actions will be taking place. And the second one represents the selection structure where you will be checking some condition. So, and if this condition is true, then the action 2 is performed. If this condition is false, then action 1 will be performed. And comes to the next statement, which is after this conditional statement. Next is a loop construct. So here you will be having some set of statements and you will be checking some condition, and if this condition is true, you will be performing some action, and again you will go back and check the condition, and if this condition is again true, this you will be performing the action again and again until this condition becomes false. Once the condition becomes false, you will be coming to the action 2, which is outside this. We call it as a loop. So this statement action 1, which is repeated until this condition becomes false. Let us see the if statements. So the if statements are of various types. The first one is a simple if statement. The syntax format of a simple if statement is if an expression and a set of statements which are to be executed when this expression is true are placed within the bracket, that is flower bracket. So this forms the block of statements to be executed when this expression becomes true. And after this block of statements, we will be having some other set of statements like statement 3, statement 4, and these will be executed if the statement is false, or if the statement is true, then the statement 1, 2 will be executed, which are followed by statement 3 and 4. And suppose this expression evaluates to false, then statement 3 and 4 will be executed, but statement 1 and 2 will not be executed. Now, the second kind of if statement is a if-else statement, and the syntax is if the expression and a set of statements which are executed when this expression is true are placed inside the flower brackets, which are here represented by statement 1 and 2, and if this expression evaluates to false, then the statements which are to be executed are placed after the else block. So it is else. Again, this we call it as a block of statements, and here we are writing statement 3 and 4, which are the statements executed when this expression becomes false, followed by statement 5. So suppose this expression evaluates to true, then the statements 1, 2 will be executed, followed by statement 5. Suppose this expression evaluates to false, then statement 3, 4 will be followed by the statement 5. Next is Elsif Ladder. So the syntax is like this: if expression 1, block of statements, else if expression 2, block of statements, else block of statements, and otherwise you will have outside some other statement. Here, if the expression 1 evaluates to true, then the statement 1 and 2 gets executed and it executes the statement 7. If the expression 1 is false, then expression 2 will be evaluated, and if expression 2 evaluates to true, then statement 3 and 4 gets executed. Otherwise, if the expression 2 is false, then statement 5 and 6 gets executed. Next is a nested if statement, where the syntax goes like this: if expression 1, inside that you have again if expression 2, inside that again you have expression 3, and you have a block of statements for this. So here it executes first the expression 1. If it is true, then it checks whether expression 2 is true. If it is true, then expression 3 is executed, and if it is evaluates to true, then statements 1 and 2 gets executed. Otherwise, it comes out and executes statement 3. So this is the structure or syntax of if else if statement or else if ladder, that is if condition 1, statement 1, else if condition 2, statement 2 goes on until the last else if condition n and statement n, else some other statement. So this will be represented in the flow chart in this fashion. So you have something before here, and condition 1 will be executed. If it is true, then statement 1 executes and comes out to the statements just below the if statement. Otherwise, the condition 2 gets evaluated, and if it is true, then statement 2 gets executed and it comes out of the if statement. Otherwise, condition 3 gets executed, and if it is true, then statement 3 gets executed and it comes out of the if statement. Otherwise, the statement in the else body gets executed and it comes out of the if statement. Next is a switch statement. So it is a multi-path statement, the syntax of which is switch, then expression, or a value. And the body of the switch will be written within a block of statements like case, the value 1, colon, the set of statements. Then you will be having either break or you need not have the break depending on the requirement. Then case value 2, set of statements. Likewise, it repeats, and at the end we have a default case which is optional, which will be having again set of statements. So this can be written in the flowchart as like this. So first, the value or expression of the switch gets executed and it will be compared against the value 1. If this value 1 is the value of value, then the statements here which are has the body of the value 1 will be gets executed. Otherwise, the value gets compared against the value 2. If it is true, then the block which is forming the value 2 will be executed. So this will be continued until all the cases will be checked. Otherwise, the default block of statements gets executed. So example here, if you see that it can be represented by an expression, and the switch case statement requires this expression to be a value which will be an integer value. It cannot have an expression which results in a floating point answer. The expression will be compared against the case labels, and if it is matching, then case 1 block will be executed. Likewise, this is the representation for a switch statement. The rules which will apply to a switch statement are: the expression used in switch statement must have an integral or enumerated type, that is a whole number expression. Then you can have any number of case statements within a switch, and each case is followed by the value which is to be compared to a 2 and a colon, and a constant expression for a case must be the same integer type as the variable in the switch, and it must be a constant or a lit. When a variable being switched on is equal to a case, then the statements following that case will execute until a break statement is reached. When a break statement is reached, then the switch terminates. Not every case needs to contain a break, and if no break appears, then the flow of the control will fall through to subsequent cases until a break is reached. A switch statement can have an optional default case which may appear at the end or anywhere of the switch, and the default case can be used for performing a task when none of the cases is true, and no break is needed if this default case is placed at the end. Otherwise, you have to write the break for the default case if it appears in between the cases. Suppose one example for a switch statement. Suppose inside the main, I have char grade equals to, within single quotes, B. Then switch on grade. So it means that the grade will be compared against the values A, B, C, D, F. If the grade value is equal to A, then it prints excellent, and since there is a break, it terminates this switch and prints your grade is A. If this value of the grade is B, then, or if the value of grade is C, then it prints well done, and it comes out and prints your grade is B or C, whatever the value. If the value of the grade is D, it prints you passed and your grade is D. And if the value of the grade is F, it prints better try again and your grade is F. If the value of the grade is none of A, B, C, D, F, then it prints invalid grade. And whatever the value of the grade that assigned will be printed as your grade is that value of that grade.